this is the most difficult part to reach in this journey. Having that 10K saved means that a lot of things have been taken care of. Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I want to share something that I believe that most people don't think about, and that is saving your first $10,000. Now, generally speaking, most people focus on saving their first $1,000, and then the next common number that you see out there is, say, saving your first $100,000, because the goal is that if you can save that first $100,000, then of course the journey is kind of exponential from there. But in as much as those are true, the number that I believe is actually the hardest to get to initially is $10,000. Here's why $10,000 is so difficult to get into, or at least to reach, when it comes to saving money. And when I say saving, it could also mean investing that money as well. Generally speaking, anybody that is trying to save $10,000 or reach that $10,000 milestone is in a situation where they are maybe just starting out of their careers. They're trying to figure things out. They probably have a lot of debt. Maybe they have so many credit card debts. Maybe they have a car loan. Maybe they have a student loan. You have all these loans and debt that you probably are holding on to, and probably are the reasons why you are unable to save your first $10,000. Hence the reason why it's generally the hardest, because in order to get to $10,000 saved up, it is wise to have paid off your debt. And that's where this problem starts, where people feel like, if I'm saving all this money but I have all this debt, what's the point? I might as well use all this money to pay off this debt. And in as much as, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that, especially if you have high interest debt like credit cards, expensive car notes and things like that, you generally want to pay those down. But guess what? You can also speed up the saving process, which means that your ability to save up that 5-figure that you're looking for becomes, you know, it's almost impossible at that point. So here are some things that you can do that I want to share with you in this video that you can do in order to make this a bit faster for you to reach. The first thing that I will say is that make sure that you avoid credit card debt. Credit card debt is one of the reasons why a lot of people cannot save. They literally take all the money that they make, or extra money that they make or they have, they put it towards a credit card, and they rely on that credit card for emergencies. The more you do this, the more you won't get out of this credit card debt. So the first thing you want to do is actually to save your money and have your own emergency fund to the side. So when I say the emergency fund, I'm talking about maybe your first $1,000 to $2,000 or $2,500, somewhere in that range, depending on what your lifestyle is like. And I'm not talking about your 6 months emergency fund at this point. I'm just talking about that, hey, you picked up a nail, or you have to change your tires, or you have to pay for something you didn't expect. At least you have some funds to the side for that. That is the first thing. Don't shoot for that $10,000 yet. That's not a goal. That is part of the journey. It's not a goal, because even when you get to 10,000, you realize, oh my gosh, I need to get to 50,000. If I get to 50,000, you still have to get to 100,000. So don't be too bogged down by the money and then you're focused solely on that. The goal is that we need to build the financial habit that can actually sustain us even when we get to our 10,000, we get to our 15,000, we get to our 30, and so on. So the first thing we want to do is avoid this credit card debt as much as we can. Secondly, the second thing we can do is to avoid all these unnecessary car notes. Yes, I understand that we might need a car note because, you know, you need a car to get around so that you can keep your job and all that. That is fine. But hey, a cheap car can still get the job done. And even if you have to get a note on it, you are likely not going to need an expensive one. And that is the goal. We want to stick to something inexpensive. Once we can get our credit card situation under control, so if we have some debt on it, that's fine. We need to then focus on paying it down. So remember, the first thing we needed to do is have some emergency fund. And I'm not saying a 6 months of emergency fund, like I said, just enough to take care of an immediate urgent problem or something, you know, that you didn't plan for. Now, when you focus on that credit card debt, we need to pay it down as much as we can. Okay, because generally speaking, with 20% interest on a credit card, you can't go anywhere with that, especially if it's a lot of money on it. So we want to start paying towards that credit card. And sometimes you have to be almost that is the goal, right? Instead of trying to save that $10,000, the goal now is let's put all our minds, all our focus, all our extra money, all our extra funds towards paying down this credit card. Once we can pay that credit card off, we want to make sure we don't go back to the habits that led us into that debt in the first place. Yes, it is okay to use your credit card, but make sure that you pay it off on a regular basis. The goal is not to carry balances and things like that. The next thing, going back to car notes, let's make sure we have a car that we can truly afford. Even if you have a note on it, let it be a note that is very affordable to you, that you are not in a situation where you have to dip into, your reserves or your emergency fund to pay for the car. Okay, so we need to make sure that is situated and under control. Then we can then come back to our emergency fund, right? Once we can pay off the credit card, pay off the car note, we can then come back to the to an emergency fund and find ways to build that up. So remember, the initial goal was to have something set to the side, something like $1,000 or $2,000 that at least provides us with some money, so that in case something happens, we can have some money to use for that problem. Hopefully it's nothing more than that, right? Then the next thing is to build this up, right? We need to build up this money, this emergency fund. So hopefully we've paid off the credit card, hopefully we've paid off the car, or at least we are consistent with the car payment so that we don't run into troubles with that. Then we then need to focus on that emergency fund. Let's now build it up to 3 months worth. And that's okay. 3 months will be the goal. 3 months worth of emergency fund saved up will be the next goal at this point. So we focus on that. And that 3 months worth will be your 3 months of living expenses plus your discretionary spending and things like that. So let's say it's $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, whatever the number is. The goal is now to save up to that $8,000 goal. Once we have that $8,000 goal set and we've met that goal, let's put that in a high yield savings account. Let's put it in a high yield savings account where that money is working, but at least it's safe and is available to us. Okay. Now, the next thing is to now have an investment account. Now, it could be a retirement account or it could be a brokerage account. It doesn't matter at this point. The goal is to have an investment account where your money can start working at double scale, all right? Or in this case, double the interest of what you're getting from a savings account. That is where the magic happens. You see, that emergency fund is emergency fund. I call it almost like an insurance, right? That covers you in case something goes wrong. Well, what really makes the magic happen when it comes to building wealth and, seeing your money grow is what you have in your investment account, because that's where you can take more risk, get more reward for the risk you're taking, and the money can grow over time. That is often the goal. That is where we then put in the effort now. And this is where you can start learning about investing, understanding, different financial instruments you can use, buying stocks, buying index funds, mutual funds, and all those things. By building this investment portfolio, making sure that you already have an emergency fund, making sure that your credit card debt is taken care of, you have a much better foundation to building long-term wealth or long-term success in your investments, because now you're not forced to sell and you're not putting so much pressure on yourself or taking unnecessary risk, because maybe that's the money you're putting into that investment is something that you may need tomorrow, right? Because you already have an emergency fund and all your needs will be taken care of. If something were to go wrong with this investment, you're likely to do much better and you would enjoy the process even more. Hence the reason why reaching your $10,000 is the most difficult, right? Based on all the things I've just listed, this is the most difficult part to reach in this journey. Having that 10K saved means that a lot of things have been taken care of. And of course, if you've stayed up to this point in this video, I want to say thank you. Don't forget to drop a like on the video, and I'd love to see you in a future one.